What's up guys, it's Paraly5er here, and welcome to a different video. Today, we're breaking down the top 10 myths from Grounded Mythbusting. This goes across the entire series, all 28 episodes, to take a look at my favourite top 10 myths of all time. Without further ado, let's get started with a few honourable mentions. Stay tuned for later in the video as we have a bonus myth that's completely brand new in this video. The first honourable mention we have is the Salt Morningstar Hammer. Now, this was a myth that I tested a while ago where there was a bug in the game that made it so when you threw the Salt Morningstar, it actually acted as a tier 3 hammer. This was an amazing bug that was completely unintentional, but very funny to use at the time, and was patched out of the game straight after I found it. The next of my honourable mentions is the live CCTV myth. Now, this one obviously is a feature of the game, which basically means if you go into the Oak Lab and look at these CCTV cameras, they are live camera feeds. So if you have someone else go to one of the labs where the camera shows, then you'll actually see the person running around on the cameras, which is a very cool little feature that is actually a true fact in the game. And the last of the honourable mentions we have is the Truffle Tussle mutation being able to break cracked rocks. This one I actually did do multiple times because I messed it up the first time, not realizing that it did actually work. It just takes multiple explosions. It basically means if you use Truffle Tussle on an enemy near a cracked rock, eventually after a couple of explosions, the cracked rock will break, allowing you to break rocks without needing bombs, which is a very useful thing even till this day. Starting off at number 10, we have the ability to grow big without the spacer. Now, this was a thing back in the day where you could go into Burgle's Oak Lab via the Red Ant Hill, or the Abandoned Ant Hill, and you wouldn't have to open up the front door to the Oak Lab, so you didn't have to activate the spacer. So I completed the entire game without activating the spacer to get the embiggening cell, and when I went to put the embiggening cell into the spacer, it just completely glitched out. However, it didn't let me beat the game without activating the spacer. I did have to activate it for the first time before I could actually put the beginning cell in and beat the game. So this was a busted myth, which is the reason I've put it at number 10, is because it didn't actually work, but it was fun to test. In at number 9, we have the ability to remix the game without actually beating it. Now again, the reason this is so far down the list is because basically what I did, I loaded up a world, I broke down the door to get to the remixer, and I went to try and activate it. However, it's this far down the list because, again, it doesn't work. You can't remix. It tells you no cheating, which I thought was hilarious at the time. The fact they actually accounted for people being able to get past this door without doing all of the objectives, so they stop you from remixing unless you've done them all. So that's why it's at number 9 on the list. Coming in at number 8 in our top myths of mythbusting and Grounded, we have the ability to shovel koi scales. If you didn't know, the only way to collect koi scales is not just from the ground. You can actually get a shovel and bash the koi fish with your shovel, and if you do it right, it will drop koi scales off the side of the koi. If you have Rascal Rogue enabled, you can also steal them directly into your inventory. This is a crazy feature of the game. I'm sure most people don't know it because you'd probably die to the koi by trying this, but it's a hilarious feature, and if you really needed koi scales and wanted to risk your life for them, you could go ahead and use a shovel on the koi fish. Coming in at number 7 on our list, we have spiders eating stink bug parts. Now, for those who didn't know, if you die and drop a bag with stink bug parts in, or if you just drop stink bug parts anywhere on the map, Orb Weavers and Orb Weaver Juniors actually eat stink bug parts. So you don't want to be leaving them, and if you've ever died with stink bug parts on you, say in the hedge, and then you come back and there's no stink bug parts in your inventory, it's because an Orb Weaver came over and ate them all. This was a very cool find, and I thought it was very interesting, which is why it's at number 7. Coming in at number 6, we're starting to move into myths that I think made important impacts on the game, and this one is the aphid pet giving you 10 extra inventory slots. Now, at the time, pets didn't teleport, so you could tame a pet and pet it, and then trap it in a little house, because pets were able to die back then, they weren't invincible, so you would trap it, and then this would allow you to access the inventory of the pet from anywhere on the map, giving you an extra 10 inventory slots. Now, this was particularly important because at the time, you only had 30 inventory slots in the game. Now, later down the line, they did patch the ability to do this. However, they also permanently increased the player's inventory by another 10 slots to 40 slots, which I'd like to think was initiated by the fact that you basically had 40 slots when you did this glitch. That was probably one of the best changes Grounded made, giving everyone an extra 10 inventory slots. And I'd like to think it was because of this glitch. Moving into number 5 now, we have the ability to make a pollen farm. Now, I just found this one really fun, and it took me a long time to do, which is why it's at number 5 on the list. Essentially, what you do is you go across the entire Grounded map, cutting down every single dandelion that produces pollen, the yellow dandelions, and then you block off their ability to regrow using something like clay foundations. Then, when you leave a single dandelion by the picnic table, all of the bees will pollinate the one dandelion, causing loads of pollen to drop down on the ground. So if you're ever wanting to farm pollen and you didn't want to travel all across the map to all these different flowers, all you got to do is chop them all down and just leave one, and it will get pollinated by every bee, creating loads and loads of pollen. Coming in at number 4, we have another one of my favorites, the house gutters containing the fireflies. Now, obviously during the nighttime, all of the fireflies fly down to the yard, and you can find them in these sort of wetlands areas. But during the day, if you have built a ramp up to the top of the house where the gutters are, on the leaves up there, you'll actually find all of the fireflies chilling. You can easily get to them to kill them all, get the gold card, get giddy goop, whatever you need. It's a really good method for farming fireflies and very, very useful and still works to this day. Another honorable mention here before we get into our top 3, I wanted to mention the ability to kill creatures using the Fists build. Now, originally, the Fists build wasn't in Mythbusting, which is why I haven't included it in the top 10. However, the reason I had tested it to begin with, I believe, was because someone had left it as a comment for Mythbusting. I tested it, and I realized it was super OP and needed its own video. So I'm going to include that one as an honorable mention because it wasn't officially in Mythbusting. However, that Fist build was completely broken using the ant eggs to stack your damage, and it made the game absolutely easy mode. So that's an honorable mention in the list once again. Moving into number 3, we have the Mant statue. Another glitch which is still in the game to this day. If you use certain poses of the Mant statue and hop on his back, you can use them to fling yourself across the entire backyard. This is just really, really useful. They never patched it out. It was a very useful fast travel method for getting across the yard. Obviously, once you're in New Game Plus 2, you have teleporties, but prior to that, this statue is one of the quickest ways to travel from one side of the yard to the other. It's a bit risky because you can die from fall damage, but it is still very, very fun to use. Coming in at number 2 on the list, we have the ability to cover the sandbox. Now, I did this before you could build blueprints en masse, when you had to build it one blueprint at a time, and I covered the entire sandbox, which took me, I believe, like 6 hours at the time. It was ridiculous, but when I did do it, if you go into the sandbox after you've covered it, it does block all of the sizzle damage in the sandbox. You no longer sizzle. So technically, it is a very useful thing to do in your world if you have a spare couple of thousand clay to be able to do it. So yeah, that's why it's in at number 2, because it is actually a really useful myth. Moving into our bonus myth for the episode. This one is one that I discovered myself when playing the Switch version of the game. Myth: does FPS affect the laser speed in the Schmecter fight? Now, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I tested this on PC. I loaded into the Schmecter fight and started the fight. I got him down to low HP so that he started doing his laser attack. While he was doing his laser attack, you can see it's moving very, very fast. So I switched my maximum frame rate down to 30 frames a second, and as you can see, the lasers slow down to the speed of a snail. Now, it makes the game a lot harder to play on 30 FPS, don't get me wrong. However, it makes the lasers really slow, so you don't really have to avoid them anymore, and it makes the fight much, much easier. So if you're really struggling with the laser on Schmecter's fight, and you're on PC specifically, turn your maximum frame rate down, and this will make it much easier to avoid the laser. And then, for my number 1 favourite myth of all time in Mythbusting, we have the cutscenes breaking the game completely. The reason I love this one so much is because I did it with Emmy, which made it so much more fun, and it's probably one of my favorite glitches I've ever found in the game. I'm just going to play the clip so you guys can see it for yourself, and yeah, enjoy.
I 100% clicked on mine. I know I did. I saw it go like gray. You know how it does?
Yeah, you saw the gun go in?
Yes.
What? You see that?
Yeah, what the hell was that?
What's going on with the game? Oh, we did it!
Oh my god.
Look at it.
Let's go!
What? We broke the game! That is all of my top 10 myths in Grounded Mythbusting. Let me know your favourite myths that you've seen in the series in the comments down below. We will be bringing Mythbusting back for Grounded 2, so make sure you keep an eye out for the newest episode as soon as Grounded 2 drops. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like on it. I will see you in the next Grounded video. Have a great rest of your day.